Ozzy and welcome back to another video. Today's video is finally a very beginner's tutorial for making jewelry, so if you want to get started into making jewelry as a hobby or as a small business like I do, this is the video for you. For anyone who doesn't know, I run a small jewelry business called Ozzy's Jewelry over on Instagram, and I have now vended at 10 in-person markets, so that's some of my credentials. I've been making beaded jewelry for almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years at the end of this month, so I'm going to try to break it down into the most simple beginner tutorial today. Before we continue, I just wanted to really quickly apologize to my headphone users because for some reason there's kind of like this bass sort of sound happening in the background of specifically this part where I'm talking in the intro and the outro of today's video. If you're playing it out loud from your TV or your phone, you probably don't notice it at all, but I just wanted to apologize really quick. I used the same exact audio setup as my last video, so I don't know what happened, but yeah, I just wanted to mention it. I've made several jewelry tutorials and tips and advice for small businesses, so if that's something that you're interested in, please consider subscribing. And apologies if my voice is a little bit rougher today. I'm recovering from being sick, so without further ado, let's get into it. The item that I'm going to show you how to make, just as like an intro into how to work with wire and beads, is a foam charm. So today I'll break down all the supplies that you need to get started. I'll break down how you wire beads, what jump rings are, how you connect it all together, all of the very beginner stuff. And even if you're just slightly dipping your toes into making jewelry and you just want to make yourself a really cute foam charm, this video works for that too. My personal origin story is when I started college, I lived in the dorms and one of my friends' RAs hosted a jewelry making event. So she brought over a bunch of beads from Michael's and she brought her one-step looper and we got to design little necklaces and then she put them together. And I was obsessed, okay? I asked her where she got the beads, where she got the one-step looper, and I was hooked. So right after that, I went to Michael's, I bought a bunch of the supplies, and I basically taught myself by like guessing based off of what I saw her do with the wire and the beads. And the rest is history. I've been making jewelry for like almost 2 years. Really soon after that, I launched an Etsy business, which is how I started my small business, but I'll go over that another day. I'll make some sort of how I started my small business or how to start your small business video. Let me know in the comments below if you're interested in that sort of video as well. But anyways, that's how I started with jewelry. It was just one little event that happened in my dorms freshman year of college. So you can definitely start whenever you want. It's never too late. It's really easy to pick up. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the tutorial. Okay, so first I'm gonna go over supplies, and I know I've gone over this a couple times in previous videos, but because this is the very beginner's tutorial, I'm gonna go over it again. These supplies are for the foam charm that we're gonna make today, but they also serve as a good baseline for just starting to make jewelry, what you're gonna need to start out. Okay, so starting off strong, this is my container of jump rings in different sizes. I have this exact container and everything else that I'm about to show you linked in the description of today's video, so you can definitely just head down there if you want to buy the exact same supplies. Next is a spool of nice thick wire, and I know that those little eye pins that come in packs can be tempting, but you definitely want to opt for nice thick wire, especially if you want your items to be sturdy. This is a 20 gauge or 8mm spool of stainless steel wire, and it will be linked in the description, of course, like everything else. And of course, throughout this video, I'll go over how to cut this wire and how to use a spool of wire rather than eye pins. And another benefit of spools is there is a lot of wire on here. It will last you a very long time. Next is the Encharm Kit's all-in-one tool. This has a round nose pliers, a flathead pliers, a wire cutter, and it also has a little place to hold your wire, which I'll get into later in the video. Hypothetically, you could just use this tool. I like to use a lot of other tools as well, but this is a really good starter one. Now to show you all the different parts of this tool, you've got the wire cutters here in the back, then the flathead pliers and the indent for wire, and then up here you've got the round nose pliers. So again, that's a really nice beginner's tool, and it's only $6 on the Encharm Kit's website. Next is my regular flathead pliers, and it took me forever to find the link to this. I got it off of Amazon, and thankfully somebody left a comment on one of my last videos of how to find this one on Amazon, so I will be linking it in today's description finally. So thank you to that commenter, I appreciate it. Next is the famous one-step looper. These are available on Amazon, at Michael's, at Hobby Lobby. They range from like $25 to $35. This is the 1.5mm size. This is optional because you do not need it to close out your wire. You can definitely just cut your wire and bend it yourself, but I like to use the one-step looper because it makes it a lot faster, especially considering that I run a small business and I'm trying to pump out that jewelry as fast as possible, okay? Next is my wire cutters. You know her, you love her. Because I use nice thick spools of wire, which is what you should be doing too, I have a separate wire cutter that's really heavy duty to cut that wire more easily. Those are all the tools that you'll be using, but as for hardware, there is one more final item, which is one of these phone charm strings, and you can find these in big multicolored packs on Amazon. And then of course, next you'll be needing an assortment of beads. I'm just gonna show y'all a couple of my own little bead organizers, but I do recommend the company in Charm Kits, the same ones who made the all-in-one tool. They have really good beginner jewelry sets that are only $25 and do include a good variety of beads if you're just getting started. Next, you're gonna want the big statement charm that's gonna be at the bottom of the phone charm, and for today, I'm gonna use a little seal. Oh my gosh, it's so tiny and so cute. I love the seal. And these little charms, whether it's an animal or a fruit charm, usually have these little loops at the end, these wire loops built into them, and these are essential unless you want to learn how to drill these into charms yourself. So definitely look for charms with these little loops on top. Okay, that is all of our tools and supplies, so now on to beginning to make it. Okay, now on to designing your phone charm. I like to break it up into 3 different sections. The first being a row of about 5 or 6 beads, which is going to be the main body of the phone charm. Then of course your big charm at the bottom, which for us today is a seal. And then I like to add one little accent bead at the top. So right now I'm picking out and laying out the main body of the phone charm, which are those 5 or 6 beads in a row. And I thought I'd mention this gray bead board that I'm working on. It's only $6 at Michael's, but you definitely don't need it to lay out your designs. You can definitely just lay them out on your desk. But yeah, here I am just picking out the main body of the charm. I did a little swirl charm at the top, then a heart with a little bead inside of it, then a glass butterfly, and then one of these big blue swirls, and then to top it all off at the bottom, we've got a little bow. As you can see, we've got our 3 main parts here. We've got this little extra bead at the top, the main body of the phone charm, and then our seal bead at the bottom. Now in this section, I'm going to teach you how to wire all of these parts and how to connect them all with jump rings, but first, I'm going to break down the very basic skill of how to work with wire and how to use the one-step looper. Welcome to demo mode, where I will in-depth demonstrate these very basic skills of how to work with wire, how to use the one-step looper, etc. So you're going to take some wire from your spool, and first you're going to straighten it out, and then we are going to cut off a piece. It doesn't really matter how long this particular piece of wire is. We're not currently working on the phone charm. This is just a demo piece of wire. Just make sure it's enough to thread a couple beads onto it for this little practice round, and this is roughly how much I cut. Now, this is the famous one-step looper. This is the front of it, and this is the back of it, and we're going to take our piece of wire and we're going to thread it through the front right here between this very top tiny little silver cylinder on top and the little black sort of pincers right under it, these little sort of like claw hands right here. I'm trying to provide lots of different angles to show you exactly where that wire is going to go. Then you're going to keep pushing that wire until it's through this little hole in the back that's directly lined up with where it's already sitting. Now your wire is perfectly lined up and sitting correctly in the one-step looper. This is what it should look like. Now you're going to squeeze that handle and you're gonna feel the tension until it works and you loop the wire. Woo! Congratulations! You have now successfully used a one-step looper. Now just pull your wire off of the cylinder, and as you'll see in just a second, we still have work to do. This loop is not completely perfect. It is not completely flush. There is still a lot of space. So if you want your jewelry to be nice and secure, we're gonna go ahead and take our flathead pliers and we're going to flatten that loop until it's nice and snug. So I'm using those flathead pliers to flatten the loop so that it's nice and even and flat, and you can already see the difference in how much better this looks. And you can also use the in Charm Kits tool and use the little wire holder, which is this little part right here, to tighten as well. I have to flatten and make sure that my beads are secure all the time because often the one-step looper will leave space like that, so it's something to keep in mind. Now onto beads. These seem pretty self-explanatory, like of course you just drop the beads onto the wire, which is what I'm about to do, but there's a little bit more to it. As I briefly touched on in my last video, the keychain tutorial, you do need a little bit of extra space at the end of the last bead that you put on the wire in order to close out the wire. So right here I'm adding a third bead, and that's actually not going to leave enough space. So now let's take our example beads and try to put them through the one-step looper. As you can see here, there isn't enough wire to actually curve that wire around that metal cylinder. You don't actually need the wire to be long enough to thread all the way through that hole in the back that we pushed it through earlier, but you do need it to be long enough to be looped by the little claws that make the loop. Now that I have taken off that third bead, we have plenty of space to loop the wire, and we do want to make sure that our very last bead in the row is nice and snug to the one-step looper. Ta-da! Now you have not only used the one-step looper for the first time, but also looped actual beads onto wire for the very first time. It's looking great. It's looking beautiful. I am so proud of you. You are doing so great. Thank you for joining me for that in-depth demonstration. Back to our phone charm. Okay, welcome back. Now that you know how to wire beads, we can do the main body of our phone charm, which is going to be a very simple, just straight line, one piece of wire continuously for these 5 or 6 beads. Now that you know that technique of how to put beads onto wire, you can also use that for bracelets, keychains, necklaces, earrings, all sorts of stuff. I chose a phone charm for today's video because it's the most simple, but let me know in the comments if you want any other tutorials for other types of jewelry, anything that I just listed. Now we've just straightened and cut our piece of wire. It is a little bit longer than the demo one because it has to be long enough to fit all of these beads. And now we're going to start by looping one of the ends just like we did in the demo video. As you can see, I'm not pushing the wire all the way through the back of the one-step looper, and while I taught you that way, you do not need to. It technically stabilizes the wire because it keeps it straight, but you can just leave enough wire that the claws can bend it. Then I am flattening out the loop with my flathead pliers, and I'm also going to use the Encharm Kit's little divot right here. And now I'm threading on my beads one by one, starting with the bottom of the design, not the top of the design, and I'm making sure that they're all facing the same way as they were when they were laying down, as to not mess up the design as I thread them all through. Ta-da! Looking gorgeous, looking gorgeous. Now we're going to use the one-step looper to close out the other side, and like I said, we want it to be nice and snug to the last bead. Using my all-in-one tool to tighten that loop as well, and then we're going to take both of our pliers and we're going to flatten out the loops on either side. So what we're going to do is we're going to make these level, which will make the design sit really nicely. It'll make it sit flat when it's on a surface. It's just a good habit to get into, especially if later you want to dive into necklaces and bracelets, because it'll help those designs stay flat. Now we have 1 out of 3 parts done with our phone charm, the main body of the charm, and now onto the little accent charm at the top. So I do like to use pre-cut wire specifically for these little charms. I like to use these ones with a little sphere at the end because it looks super clean, but for the purposes of today's tutorial, I'm just going to use my regular spool of wire. I've cut out a little piece and we're going to do exactly what we did with the body. We're going to make our first loop, then we're going to thread the little star on, and then we're going to close out the loop on the other side. Flattening them out, and ta-da! Now we have our little star accent charm for the top of the phone charm. We have 2 of the 3 pieces done, and because the seal is already on a wire, now we're gonna get into jump rings. Okay, we're gonna jump straight into demo mode, and this is gonna be all about jump rings. Jump rings are these little wire rings, and I buy multi-size packs like I showed earlier in the video. We're gonna take the exact middle size for this practice, so the 3rd row in, face the seam or the opening of the ring up, and then grab each side with 2 different pliers. Then you're gonna wanna pull one side either towards you or away from you, and that's gonna open up the jump ring, as you can see here. Now to reclose it, which you'll typically do with something hanging on it, you're gonna want to pull the 2 sides back together. Now what you do not want to do, I repeat, do not want to do, is pull both of the sides outwards. You want to open it the way that I demonstrated and not like this, not what I am demonstrating right now. It's even kind of hard to do because the jump ring doesn't really allow it, but this will malform it, it will malshape it. When you try to reclose it, it will be a lot harder and the circle will be all messed up, so you definitely want to open it by just pulling the side towards or away from you like I showed earlier. Pulling outwards in this motion is bad, do not do that, but pulling towards or away from you in this motion is good. Okay, now that you know how to use jump rings as well, let's finish up this phone charm. We're going to take the itty bittiest, tiniest little jump ring at the very end first, and we're going to use that to connect our main charm, so our seal, to the body of the phone charm. We're going to take our 2 pliers, and then we're going to open that little jump ring the right way. Then we're going to take the seal charm, and we're going to hook it onto the jump ring through the little loop at the top. Look at her dangle! Now I'm actually going to switch the jump ring over to the other hand really quick, and then we're going to take the main body of the phone charm, and we want to take the loop at the bottom of the phone charm and hook that onto the jump ring as well. Now that they're both hanging on for dear life, you're going to take both of your pliers and you're going to close out that jump ring. Ta-da! You officially have 2 out of the 3 parts of your phone charm completely done. Now we're going to look at the extra little charm at the top, which for me is this little blue star. We're going to take the second smallest jump ring now, and we're going to use this to attach the main body of the phone charm, the little string for the phone charm, and the accent star at the top. So you're going to open that sucker up, and then you're going to put the main body of your phone charm onto that jump ring. You're going to put the little accent bead at the top onto that jump ring. And then if you have a string that doesn't have a little lobster clasp on the end, you would add it to this jump ring as well to connect the pieces. However, my strings for my phone charms have little lobster clasps at the end, so we're actually just going to close out that jump ring, and then we're going to open up the little lobster clasp like so, and then we're going to hook it on the top. And there you go! You did it! You have a fully functioning phone charm! Woo! These are so super cute, and they're such a nice basic item to get started with wiring beads. I really hope this tutorial was helpful. I tried to give as many niche tips and tricks as possible from my experience making jewelry. I tried to strike a balance between covering stuff that was super obvious, but still trying to make it a super basic tutorial of just how to wire beads. So I hope that it turned out well and that it was helpful. And I have a super cute, super cool, adorable new phone charm. Thank you guys so much for watching. I super appreciate all of the support lately. We just hit 2,000 subscribers, which is crazy. I'm so excited about it, so thank y'all. If you're interested in making jewelry or running a small business or just cozy vibes in general, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and comment. I hope that this video was easy to follow, but if you have any questions about anything that I covered in today's video, please comment down below and I'll try my best to respond. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!